What's cracking there, buddy? Welcome back to the channel. New video. Today I want to talk about Magic Mountain. For those of you that aren't from Southern California, and especially those of you who aren't from California, period, you may have heard of Six Flags Magic Mountain out here in Southern California. You may want to put it on your list of things to do when on vacation out here. And it's a great place, but I want to talk about what it used to be. Back in the 1980s and 1990s, people don't understand how dangerous it was to go to Magic Mountain. Magic Mountain wasn't a place, if you were from a barrio, if you were from a hood, if you were gangbanging, Magic Mountain wasn't a place where you just one day just told your girl, hey, you feel like going to Magic Mountain? Let's go. No. Nah, it was more like your lady was like, hey, how about we go to Magic Mountain this weekend? And you told her, well, let me see what homies are available. Let me get at the homies real quick. Because you weren't going to go to Magic Mountain by yourself, not just you and your lady. You're going to have at least one of your homeboys with you. If not, caravan over there. There are two big incidents that are usually pointed to that I think a lot of people don't know about. So in 1985, there was an incident that happened during a Schools Out event. I guess it was when, summer probably just started and school's out, and Magic Mountain advertised it as such, right? And so a bunch of people showed up, a bunch of gang members from all over Southern California. And an incident jumped off. When the dust settled on that incident, 6 people were left stabbed, 4 security guards from Magic Mountain were assaulted, and 21 people were arrested. Now, again, there were a lot of incidents. There were always incidents, especially like those of you that been there, those of you that lived through that era know. You get on a ride, a lot of those rides, when you're done and you come out to exit it, there's usually like a little pathway you would have to go to or go through. You would have to go through a little pathway, and at the end of that little pathway, there's where all the visitors to the park are, right? A lot of times in those little pathways is where people were hanging out, troublemakers. You come off them rides and, hey, where you from, Holmes? That's a deadly question. Always has been. Hey, where you from? And it could lead to fights. It could lead to stabbings. It could lead to shootings, right? But as a result of the 1985 melee, in 1988, Magic Mountain, to try to curb the violence and stop gang members from coming in, they instituted this new anti-gang policy. So if you showed up, you weren't going to be able to have, because before you could have a jersey with your hood or your barrio across the back. And it's no wonder why people got into stuff, because your neighborhood has enemies. And if they're there in the park and they see you wearing that jersey or that hoodie or whatever you were wearing and your neighbor was on it, well, your enemigos are going to want that sweater. So in 1988, Magic Mountain instituted some policies where when you went in there, if they even thought you were a gang member, when you're trying to get into the park, if they even thought you were a gang member, they'd pull you to the side. They'd want to wand you with the metal detector. They'd ask you where you're from. And you say, oh, I am from nowhere. They're going to want to check your ID, see what city you're from, look at your tattoos. If they could figure out what neighborhood you were from, they had a list. They had a sheet that would have your neighborhood and every one of your rivals, all their neighborhoods. And so they'll ask you, oh, you're from woo woo woo? Well, what's going to happen if you run into dudes from, and they would name it? And you'd have to be like, man, I'm not even from there. I'm just here with my lady. You always had to go. And once they instituted that thing, you had to make sure you went with your homegirls. At least some type of female was with you. And you know, nowadays nobody's doing it anymore, but it was always the females that were going to bring the weapons in. Because they wouldn't jack them up. They jack us up. A lot of times, if we knew we were going to go in there with weapons, we would send the homegirls that were holding separate, and then have a couple of the homegirls stay with us, and we'd walk in together. So when they jacked us up, everything's already inside waiting for us. That's the way Magic Mountain was. The biggest incident I did a video on, but I'll bring it up again here because when I decided I wanted to talk about this topic, I researched it. And it talks about the 85 as well as the April of 1993 incident. I got busted in June of 93. I was there for the incident in April of 1993. The LAPD put out a report. I think the sheriff's department did too. They put out reports on why the incident happened. It was a full-blown riot that occurred in April of 1993. It was one of the weirdest things. When everything was over with, it was one of the weirdest things. I talked about it in my video. I'll talk about it a little bit more here. But the LAPD and the LA sheriffs, the law enforcement agencies of Los Angeles, they put out their reports and they said all these different reasons on why it happened. And I agree to an extent where it definitely was overcrowded. There were some incidents that were occurring throughout the day where the park should have realized, like, hey, we might need to shut down. And they didn't. That almighty dollar. That's what they were seeing, right? But as far as the riot itself, why it actually occurred, what triggered everyone, happened directly in front of me. TLC and Paperboy were in concert that day. And if you guys remember, there were two different time slots for the concerts. There was I believe it was 7 o'clock and a 9 o'clock. We had decided that we were going to take advantage of all the rides and everything. And like I said, it was packed. It was taking so long to be able to get on a ride. So the people that I was with, we said, man, let's just wait and let's go watch the concert at 9 o'clock. So we get in line like at 8 something, right? And we kind of waited too long, so we were way at the back. Directly in front of us was a crowd of blacks, right? Probably like four to six people. And I remember I was standing there, and I was with my daughter's mom, and one of my little homeboys was there, and he was with his lady, and there was other couples that were with us. And I remember I looked to the side. I don't remember what I was looking around, but it was packed full of gang members. It was packed full of gang members that day. And I remember I was looking around, and I distinctly remember hearing a woman's voice. And she said, bitch, who you calling a bitch? And I turned and I looked, and it was a woman in the group in front of me, the crowd of blacks, and they were in front of me. And the response was, I'm calling you a bitch. And next thing you know, there was a tall, skinny black woman fighting with a short, real stocky black woman. And I remember thinking, man, that skinny chick is going to get her ass whooped. And when I tell you, if I'm remembering right, When I tell you, she beat the brakes off that other chick. And it happened fast, right? And I remember when the fight broke out, the security guards that were around us took off running. And I walked over to the one of the black dudes. And it was mine. I don't know how I don't know if it was because of what he was saying, but because he was talking, right? To the chicks fighting. And in my head, that was his lady that was fighting, right? And so I walked up to him and I said, hey, Holmes, check this out. And he looked at me like, what's up? I said, hey, your lady already won, Holmes. She's whooping her ass. I said, security ran. If you guys break up, you guys can get back in line and we can all still get in the concert. And I remember him saying, hey, that's good looking out, essay. And he turned around and went towards them. So I'm thinking he's going to break it up. I turned around to walk back to my group that was behind his group. And as I'm walking back towards my group, I remember on the left side of us was a bunch of the stores. And as I'm walking back towards the group, I hear him tell someone, that's why my bitch fucked your bitch up. And when I heard that, I then heard something, another black man's voice say something back, and then gunfire. When I heard the gunfire, I immediately grabbed my daughter's mom. All the metal doors were starting to come down in front of all the stores on the left side of us. We had just found out that she was pregnant. Remember, this is in April. When I got busted in June, she was 8 weeks pregnant. So we had just found out that she was pregnant. So when I went to throw her in the store. But anyways, I don't want to get into all that. You guys can go watch the other video. In order to make sure she was safe, I went into the store with her because I didn't want her running around where everything was happening. But Magic Mountain went completely bonkers. I don't know if people understand. Them cats from LA love shooting, especially back then. And when they hear gunshots and they don't know who's shooting at who, a lot of times they pull theirs out and they start dumping. And that's what you had happen that day. These two black dudes, whoever was in their parties, I don't know, they started shooting at each other. Next thing you know, you were hearing gunshots in different parts of the park. Pa, 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 pa. That was Magic Mountain. That's how it really was. And that whole incident started over two black women fighting. I remember when we were getting escorted. This was hours. It probably took about 4 hours for them to get everything under control. Escort us out to the parking lot so we can get to our cars. And I remember every single store we passed. Every single store that passed. The ones that didn't have the metal doors that come down. Every single store was empty. Completely looted. I remember the popcorn machines. The glass was broken. There was no popcorn left in the machines and no popcorn on the floor. That always stood out to me. Like every time I think about that riot, I always think, where in the fuck did all the popcorn go? They didn't even let it hit the ground. But this is why when we have, us older heads, when we look at what these youngsters are doing nowadays, and we compare it to when we were kids, both eras are doing stupid stuff. Senseless things that can lead to death or incarceration. But back then, nowadays you can go to Magic Mountain. You can go to Knott's Berry Farm. Disneyland was never, that was always looked at as for the kids. But Magic Mountain was the most dangerous theme park in Southern California. And then there were incidents at Knott's Berry Farm as well. Back in the 80s and 90s, you weren't going nowhere without your homeboys. You weren't going to the movies with your old lady without your homeboys. Everywhere you went, it was possible it was going to go down. And a lot of times it did. Anyhow, before I go, I want to make sure I mention today's sponsor, Barrio Liquors, out in Turlock. Coldest beer around. Anybody in the area, if you're just driving through, make sure you go check out Barrio Liquors and say hi to Lali. Tell them Dub sent you. Today's other sponsor, Sticks and Stones Yard Service out in Arizona. You need some landscaping done, give them a call. That's my video for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them, man. I'm out of here.